Am I talking to the right side of the microphone? Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording. And as of today, my new album, Rituals, which was made completely on the little Dirty Wave Mate tracker right here, is now out everywhere. I released it on Bandcamp on Monday, and I released it with a bonus download of all of the bundles for every single track that's on here. What's a bundle, you might ask? Well, it's the whole song file, and it's the presets, and it's the samples, which means that if you have a mate, you can load up any of the songs off my album Rituals and, mess with it, dig into it, play with it, remix it, whatever you want. It's all there. Super, super cool. A lot of you have been making a lot of comments about the mate being either unavailable, pre-ordered into oblivion, I think is what people have been saying, and or too expensive. And to those people, I say one thing: Mate Headless. Mate Headless, baby. What is it? Check the video description for a link to all of the information about Mate Headless, but basically what it is, it's a way for you to build a mate without buying a mate. You can compile the mate software onto a very cheap microcomputer and have a mate, and you can then participate in all the cool mate stuff. Basically, it's a way for you to get into the awesome mate ecosystem with a little tiny bit of DIY work, and there's been a lot of really cool expressions of this, like you see on screen. This person's running it through a tiny little Sony PVM. There it is. That's the mate. Look at it. Look at it go. It's on a TT 4.1. So check the links in the description if you would like to get information on how to run Mate Headless, because I think you should give it a try. I think it's really damn cool. So now that we have that out of the way, y'all can shut up about all that shit. What we're going to do today is I want to show you, get out of here. Get out here. I want to show you how I put together one of my favorite tracks on the album called Deep Throat. Deep Throat came to me as an idea in terms of doing sort of a mid-temp, super quick turn, like complextro sounding synth-heavy track. And it's big, and it's brash, and it's fun. Yeah, it started with an idea. It started with an idea that sounds a little bit like this. So I wanted to prove to myself that I could do these really quick change, like sound design kind of things. And guess what? You can. And what's going on here, in case you don't know how the mate works, these are the note values. These are the notes right here. This is the velocity, and this is the instrument, meaning the individual instrument that is being used to trigger that particular sound at that particular time. So you can see I'm switching a lot. I got 3, 4, 2, 6, 3, 7, 7, and then here I have 1, 6, 5, 2, all that kind of stuff. So every single hit here almost gets a new instrument on it, and all of these sound a little different. I think most of them are going to be with the macro synth, a few of them with the wave synth, but the macro synth is really cool because it's mutable instruments braids, and it has all of these different synth engines. So this is the wave paraphonic, wave line, let's see, the saw, the formant, and then just like all of the different engines that are available to us. If I come all the way down here, I can do a little demo of this. All right, so that's a lot of the sort of complextro bass sounds that I made. And the crazy thing about the Mate, and I think this is actually pretty unique to it, is being able to instrument switch so quickly. In a DAW, you would have to do a lot more work to get this to work. But in here, every single note event can be a new instrument, and that gives you this really cool ability to switch between all these different timbres, which I really like. There's a couple other things going on here. In the effects thing here, you'll see that we have stuff like pitch bend, pitch slide. Here's some more pitch slide and pitch bends. We'll find somewhere around here, we'll find an ARP. But what pitch slide does is it slides from the previous note. So if the previous note was an octave up, for instance, like down here, you can hear that slide. It'll slide to the next one. And then pitch bend bends down from the current note, or up from the current note at a certain rate, which is pretty neat. So that's all through here. I'm doing a lot of slippy pitch bend and pitch slides. I really wanted this to have like a lot of life to it. I started building these complex chains of stuff. That's the first one. And then the second one's got a little bit of variation. You can see I do a kill here. I'll explain why in a second. Here's a new effect. This is called ARP. It's like a really quick arpeggiator. Ooh, I like 12 quite a bit. That's pretty neat. But you can basically set different values that you want it to ARP up. You got two different ones. So combining the different sounds with the pitch bends and like just clever sequencing, I was able to get this really cool proof of concept down. And then I decided, you know what? I like the way this sounds, but I need something underneath that's a bit more stable, because what I was finding was that the bass of the complex area wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. And this kind of stuff, I feel like in stuff like res and other mid-temps, and even in like dubstep and neuro, what you'll find is that you'll have these really complex mid-range basses with all this high frequency and mid-range growl, which is what we had in those. And then you'll always have a sub, like a more pure sub that's hanging out underneath it. And that sub might even be its own channel, its own synth that just like does whatever you want the real bass line to sound like, and then everything on top is just doing the crazy stuff. This is a sort of a more sub-oriented thing, but in the end, I decided to give it a little bit more vibe too. So let's listen to this. And you'll also hear that I added all of the same pitch bend stuff to it. And all I did really was duplicate the original stuff here and conform it all to one instrument so that the two were in lockstep with each other. So all that cool stuff is still there. It's just there to give some undercurrent to the whole thing, some undercarriage, excuse me. Next thing that I came up with was the drums. These aren't really that crazy. In fact, they're not supposed to be. They're basically just a little kick, snare, hi-hat thing that stops every once in a while just to give a little bit of vibe. You can see how I have that little empty there, a little empty here too. It gives us all this room to play with our other stuff. This is kind of like a funk drum line in that, you know, the band's going to be highly syncopated. See, the drums are just kind of metronomic and really sludgy, holding it down just like metronomic drums, which is what I wanted. So after I came up with this initial A section here, I came up with this B section, and I made some new synths for this and also tried to change up the way that they play. So let's listen to the complex thing, the complextro part. So I'm not switching quite as often. I'm switching like every bar on this. And this is a more like progressive section in that the whole 4 bars ends up being a bit of a phrase. Almost everything here is going to be the macro synth still. It's just so good. I really do like a little bit of redux and what do you call it, distortion on some of these sounds, just because they sound fantastic. I switched up the sub sound here for something a bit more aggressive. Wow, what was that? Oh yeah, that square sync from the macro synth is rather crazy. It's really cool to have that sync sound built into a macro oscillator. And then finally, this last part didn't come in until after I got the vocal done. So let's jump to the vocal, and then I will come back to the C section, I guess you'd call it. So I have a bunch of vocal samples on here. In this case, our little vocal samples came from I've used this so much. This is from a Samplified thing called SAD. Samplified is a sample company I've worked with before. And it sounds... Oh, it's all sliced up. I'm not going to be able to play it for you normally. But I basically just chopped the hell out of it. I wanted that feeling of it, but it didn't really fit at the tempo it was. So I just chopped the hell out of it. I'm using 32 slices for the whole thing. And yeah, it's all just... It's just all chopped up. It's just slicing the vocal. I think I have a little bit of distortion on it, and obviously some what do you call it, reverb and delay, just to give it a little bit of vibe. So that's the first thing I started with the vocal, and this little guitar line was just kind of like this little muted guitar line was just kind of like a nice little added thing. Where's this come from? Old school, like 90s samples thing called Jazztastic, which just had some nice little like Rhodes and guitar samples in it. I really like those old school sample CDs, especially when I'm working on a tracker. It feels somehow appropriate. Got some drum loops that come in. I'm using the band stop filter on this to give it a phaser sound. That's why it's swirling around. And we're doing some slicing here. This is an old Norman Cook sample, a Fatboy Slim sample CD that I have. When we get to this next section here, we add... Let's go ahead and listen to this transition. Okay, a bunch of stuff to talk about. I have this... This is my effects channel. It starts with a crash and then goes into this rise. These are just samples. These are just samples of things that I have that I've put on here that I knew I'd use. And then we have this little ARP. You'll notice here that in these, they're all 4 phrases. That's because they're running at normal speed. When I did the ARP, I actually set a new groove. And a groove is a way that you tell the mate how fast you want each thing to go by. And in this case, I created a groove that is like twice as fast as the normal groove. And so I can do 30-second notes really, really easy. But that means I have to have more phrases in here for it to actually fit. Because if you have a chain in here that has basically less information in it in terms of timing than other ones, it will go by faster, and then your whole sort of like progression will get kind of messed up because one of these channels will be like ahead or behind. So just keep that in mind. So we got this little ARP thing. I am doing the warp command and the volume command. Warp is a thing in the wave synth that is going to add a bit of like edge to, especially the sine wave. So we start off really, really quiet and mellow. And then the repetition command is going to iterate the warp and the volume, making it go up 1 every single time a thing goes by. And what that leads to, if you let it, is a rise in the perceived energy of this. Every time we hit 73 in this phrase, we reset that warp and volume, and then at the end, I just let it go. And that's how it gets big. I really like the repetition command. It's super, super good. So then we go into this section. I add a new drum to kind of like give us a little bit of taste of what we're about to get. And then we have this, which is cool as heck. This is actually the macro synth. I have been using the Wave Paraphonic a ton. If you can look down at the bottom right hand of the interface, you'll see that there is a keyboard and it's showing 3 notes being played. The Wave Paraphonic is dope because what it does is actually plays a chord, and you can change the chord voicing depending on where this is. And you can program it too. So if we go in here, let's see, am I changing the chord? No, I'm not. So you can actually program chords in by manipulating the color command of the macro synth in your effects here. And it just sounds super cool. I really, really like having the ability to do chords so easily with that. I've been using the macros in, especially the wave paraphonic mode, a ton. Like I said earlier, these presets are all going to be available to you if you grab the Bandcamp thing and the bundle there, or I have them on Patreon as well, so you can check it up there if you want. So we just got this blasted sound here. We've got a fair amount of distortion, and then some low pass, high pass, basically. Cleaning this thing up. I like it a lot. Also that major minor modulation. So this is our section going into the build. You can hear that ARP coming back. And then we have this little breather. Right into the drop we talked about earlier. The only interesting thing here, I mean, everything else that you hear in here is normal. We have this little clap buildup, which is just programmed in. And we have this really nice rise that has this crazy, where is it? Is it here? Yeah, that major third implication. It's just a really, really lucky chance that I found that one because it works so well. It's got that tone to it. Okay, so what I want you to pay attention to here in this next section, this is just something I like to do at the end. Once I've programmed all my stuff, I will go in and I'll make little fancy little turns and stuff. And one of my favorite things to do, especially with this track, is kill the downbeat. And I'll make all this space in the downbeat by getting rid of anything besides like the kick and the event I want you to pay attention to. So in here, we've got that big space between kick and snare, and then the hi-hat picks up after that, which I think provides a really, really cool, just like really hard hammer energy. Happens again down here. So just that big old space. And in this case, I've added that and a little rise, followed by that dive bomb pitch effect, which I think is really, really fun. There's another one. And then we go into the C section. So here the bass takes a bit of a backseat. It's really not doing anything crazy. I'm just using the one sound, the really big blasted saw. And alongside it, we have this sine triangle sub sort of sound to give it a bit more stereo and just interest. What do we have here? Yeah. Okay. So we got some pads. What is this from? Oh, no. Shout out to Intimate Noise. They hooked me up with this sample pack called Golden Sand right before I started working on the mate. And Intimate Noise and I worked together. We did some OP1 stuff back in the day. They make a really cool sample packs. And Golden Sand is probably one of my favorite ones. They just have these really nice, like Boards of Canada-esque kind of stuff. I used that one a ton on one of one of the other tracks on here called Gold Sand. So I think that's the one I used here. With a little pitch bend. Some more vocal samples from Sad. Our drums really haven't changed all that much. We do have a new loop from Mr. Norman Cook again. You can hear the influence there. It's like a slowed down version of You Could Deal With This, Weapon of Choice. Like, I love the Norman Cook samples. Skip to My Loops is what it's called. It's really cool. And then the effects channel doing the normal stuff. So I really liked this, like, move away from the complextro to a more melodic sound. And this sets up for the D section, which is going to happen after this. one of the things that you can do when you're writing stuff that has like a strong melodic feel to it, meaning like a strong sense of pitch, is move from just playing like the tonic note like we do here. That bass is just playing the tonic. And then when we hit this section, we go down and then back up to the tonic. So we're moving in and out of this sort of like chord progression idea where sometimes we have a particular type of chord progression, sometimes we don't. And we're deciding when we want to give the listener the sense of home. And I really, really love starting away from home, meaning not starting on the tonic note to create a lot more like movement in my pieces. So when we get to this section, we have some variations on the vocals, same bass stuff going on, just doing that chord progression. You can see here that I'm using the transpose function in the chain so that I don't have to write 4 new phrases, excuse me. I can actually just transpose the phrase that I have. Oh, this is a great sound. Is this Lego Belt? I think this is Lego Belt. Yeah. So Lego Belt, an amazing electronic musician with a great collection of synthesizers and a great attitude towards life, has a huge sample library that he has given away. And if we go into here, we'll see that we have the ones I've loaded up at least. And they're just all really great sounds. One hits, pads, atmosphere, stuff like that. I've got a fair amount of distortion on here, so it doesn't really sound that distorted all the time, but I knew that these were going to be a great fodder for the mate, just because those one hits that have like, you know, a good sense of like timbre and pitch and maybe even harmony, like a pad, are perfect for something that can only play a monophonic sample. So that's what's going on here. I'm just pitching it around. Switching back and forth. Here, we got some new vocal stuff. And again, that's from Samplified Sad. Oh, this is one of my favorite things to do on the mate. Take the seesaw mode, the seesaw shape for the macro syn, and just drown it in reverb. I've actually got the dry really, really low on this. And I talked about this in the video that I put out on Monday, where we can mix the sound here. So this is what it sounds like with it more dry. It's not bad. I've used this sound as a lead, but here I want it way in the background. I want it to just fill out the background with space. You can hear it tail there. It's just a sneaky way of getting some nice background stuff. Our drums are just doing basic thing. And then we have a new loop, hard loop from the Norman Cook thing that adds a lot of vibe in the background. We're just slicing it up and making it go. A fair amount of distortion here, as you can see on the amp section. So just slice. You can see the slices going on. I'm not really even like doing a lot of remixing with it. We got this little empty here at the end. Bump, 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 bump. And then, this is something I did a bunch on this album. I just returned to the beginning again. Like, so, you know, I talked about how I started with this bass line sound. You start with a seed, you build around it, and by the time you get to like you decide what the first room of your house is going to look like, you iterate on that room. Oh God, I just burped. I have eaten an entire pack of Haribo sour gummies, and now I am halfway through a bag of Haribo colas, and obviously I shouldn't do that right before I shoot a video. Get yourself a little seed, build around it, make it sound good, and then start iterating. And that's what I did. You know, we got 4 sections here before we return to our beginning again. And then I try to make a variation on the second time around. So you've heard this, but this time we go into drum and bass. So let's go over here and listen to that break. you'll see that we have 8 here, 8 phrases. And that's because I'm using that same fast groove we used earlier that makes things 30-second notes as opposed to 16th notes. So we can go zoom, zoom, zoom. And I have 8 things in here. So this is just a chopped up break. It's actually a Norman Cook break as well. You can hear that band stop filter working on it to give it that cool, really cool phaser sound. And then I decided, hey, instead of going down tempo, let's just go full up tempo with this, just as part of our break. Sometimes I'll hear in this music like the break and the build will be like fast, double time, and then we'll get to the drop and it'll slow down again. You like put all this like frenetic top end energy into your build, and then when you get to your drop, you just hammer down on the real just like big acts that like big fundamental kind of things that you can do with like bass and that kind of stuff. So we got this little loop here. And now here's our pre-drop. Bring it down all the way. So we're going to do a very similar thing we did here, except I did make a variation of our bass lines. I added some new instruments and I just changed it up a little bit. You're going to hear a lot of the same sounds, but if you see here's like instrument 27, that's a new one. That's new. Now my absolute favorite part of this, it's right here. That's it. Now, so what I was doing was I was going through and I was switching these instruments around to see what stuck. And I added this little, that right here. That's the wave paraphonic from earlier. And it sweeps in. And then immediately these things right here, these next ones, they all kind of like ramp up when each one hits. And it's just this super cool accidental like ramp, and it keeps on changing timbre. It just makes me smile every single time I hear it, and it was kind of a happy accident. There's a new little empty, big old empty. So I cleared out everything on the downbeat except for the bass. It's like we have some tambourine. Oh, no, that's the loop from earlier. But you can see I made that little space there for the empty. So this is the thing, like hit that downbeat, do nothing, and then hit it on the backbeat again, which is right here on the 2 and the 4. Just really, really powerful. It's really, really fun. A great way to just add a little spice to your things. And that's it. We have a little outro here, and one of the things I did on the Mate that I don't normally do is just like I ended songs. I just ended them. I ended them hard and I ended them fast. So we have this little outro section here, which is the last thing I will play for you. Just keep an ear out for the fact that we went from the chord progression thing we talked about earlier, where it's moving home to the tonic, and then here when we get to the outro, we just hammer on the tonic. We don't want people to think that we're going to continue changing chords and progressing. We want them to know that we are kind of hanging out and that we're about to possibly wrap this up. So that's how that goes. Got my FD patterns here. We talked about this on Monday as well. This is my kill pattern, so that when I put an FD chain in here, it calls upon the FD phrase, and that says, hey, stop everything. And then I don't know what I'm doing with 1 here. I don't know why I have a 1. It should be an FE. But that's it. That's what I wanted to talk to you about my track Deep Throat from the album Rituals that I just put out that was made 100% on the Mate. I rendered the tracks from the Mate. You can do that by going to, let's see, render. And you can choose all these options here and render out your song. You can actually render out stems, which is really, really cool. And this is also where you bundle the track up if you want to share it with people. All in all, what an amazing little device. I really would love for anyone who is at all interested in it, get yourself a Teensy, compile the headless, and get yourself a mate going on. Play around with it, see what it's like. You can download my album and get these bundles if you want something to wet your whistle. Yeah, check the link in the description for information on that. And hey, check the link in the description for my new album, Rituals. That's what this video is really about, right? This was all just a facade. Yeah, I hope you like it. It's 10 tracks. It's fun. It's good. It's groovy. And that's about all I have to say about that. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and I hope you have a wonderful day.